So we're almost there. We're just a few steps away from getting our hands on the credit card information. We now have access through root. We have a password that allows us access through SSH. We have the password for the MySQL database. All we need to do now is check whether the database has the credit card information and then download that information to our Kali machine to accomplish and finish the mission. So first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to SSH into the target machine using the newly acquired password. And to do that, I'm going to do SSH, the username, which is webdev, at the IP address of my target. I'll type in the password, and I have access. One thing that I mentioned we check at the post-exploitation stage is when I get access to a user, I want to know what kind of privileges does this user have. If I use the sudo command, am I able to run anything, or am I limited in my abilities to run commands? And to do that, like we've seen before, I use the sudo -l. And as we can see here, the user webdev is allowed to run any command on the system. Effectively, this means that I can change from the webdev user to the root user, and I have access as root again. And to do that, I can use the sudo su. And as you can see here, I managed to change myself into the root user. So this is yet another way that I'm able to get root access without having to re-exploit the machine. Let me exit the shell and refocus my attention on the MySQL database. Let's go ahead and log into the database. I'm going to do MySQL -u root and -p for the password. I'll type in the password that we know by now, and I'm in. Perfect. Once I'm in, I want to see what databases exist on the system, and to do that, I use show databases and a semicolon at the end. Remember, whenever we're running MySQL commands, I need to end the command with a semicolon. Otherwise, my command will fail. And as you can see here, we have a number of databases. The promising one is the second one that is named Equihax. So let's go ahead and use the database and see what kind of information we have. To do that, I'll type use and the name of the database, which is Equihax, and a semicolon. Now I want to see what tables exist in the database. So I'm going to do show tables, semicolon, and I get only one table that's named customers. Let's see what kind of information the customers table has. I'm going to do select star, and star, like we've seen before, is a wildcard that means everything. So select everything from customers, which is the name of the table, and a semicolon. And look at that. This is all the customer information that deals with my target. I have the first name, the last name, the email address, and the credit card number of every single user. Now, this is obviously a dummy database that I've created for you guys, and it's just 100 rows, 100 entries. In real life, this is going to be thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of records. So yes, of course, I can copy paste this stuff and call it a day. However, I want to treat this as a real life scenario. And if this is going to be a database of millions of records, there's no way I can just copy paste it. So I need to find a way to dump this database into a file and then find another way to get this file off the target into my Kali machine. Now again, keep in mind that this is the bad guy's perspective. In an ethical hacking engagement, you should actually make an effort not to view any customer information. So if somehow you find yourself with access to a database, the first thing that you want to do is you want to alert your customer and say, hey, Mr. Customer, I managed to get access to the database. I did not look at any customer information. How would you like me to proceed? Is this enough for you to show that I have completed the mission? Or would you actually like me to try and get some information? Some customers, actually the majority of the customers, will tell you to stop right there. Some customers, on the other hand, might tell you to get 1 or 2 records just as proof. But almost no customer will tell you to get the entire database. That is almost guaranteed not to happen. Right? So again, we're just playing the role of the bad guys right now, and we want to actually dump the entire database. Assuming this is a database of millions and millions of records, now what I want to do is find a way to transfer this database or dump it into a text file. And to do that, I'm going to use the select command again, but instead of displaying the output on the screen, I'm going to redirect the output onto a file by using the command into out file, and the name of the file. Now what I want to do, what I have in mind as a plan is this. I'm going to redirect the output into a file that I'm going to create in the root directory of Apache. Because if I'm successful doing that, that means all I have to do is just browse to the file using my web browser and download it. So let me try that. I'm going to try and output the file into var/www/html, and I'm just going to call it cc for creditcard.txt. Unfortunately, I get an error that says I cannot create or write to this file. And then the error code clarifies this by saying that no such file or directory exists. Meaning that the var/www/html does not exist as a directory. Interesting. So let me play it safe and output the file into a directory that I know for a fact will exist, which is the temp directory. So I'm going instead to type /temp/cc. And now I get an OK message saying that the output file has been created into the temp directory. Let me try and figure out what caused the error. Does the var www directory does not exist? So if I do ls/var/www, it looks like it really doesn't exist. If you think about it for a second, yes, I do have a web server running. However, it's running on port 8080. And when we did the nmap scan, the service scan returned the web server to be the Tomcat manager. So that tells me something. That tells me that the Tomcat manager might actually exist in a different directory, different than the Apache directory that we're used to. So after a little bit of research, I find out that the directory of my web root is going to be under /user/local/tomcat. Let's have a look at the content of the directory. You'll see a web apps directory, and under the web apps directory is a root directory, and this is going to be the root directory of my Tomcat manager. In other words, whatever I put in this directory, I'll be able to access it using my web browser on port 8080. So now that I have cd'd into the Tomcat root directory, let me go ahead and copy the credit card text file from the temp directory to my current directory. And to do that, I'll use the copy command, the name of the file, and dot meaning the current directory where I am right now. Now again, I'm assuming that this is a massive file. This is going to be gigabits and gigabits of data because it contains millions of credit card information. So as a bad guy, I want to make sure that I'm able to download this file as soon as possible. And to do that, I'm going to use the tar command to archive it and compress it at the same time. Hopefully, I'll be able to minimize the size of the file so that my download will take less time. So I'll go ahead and use the tar command that we've seen before, and I'm going to use it with the compress option. And I'll name the file that I'm going to download price.tar.gz, and the file that I want to archive and compress, which is the cc.txt. Let me do a quick ls to verify that I have everything I need. Here we go. This is the price.tar.gz. So now all I need to do is open my web browser, go to the IP address of my target on port 8080 / the name of the file, which should exist now on the root directory. I'll hit enter, and here we go. I get a pop-up message that says, here's the file. Do you want to download it? I'll say yes, opening it with the archive manager. Now, of course, I can do that on the command line using wget and untar it on the command line. But I think by now you had enough of the command line. So let's use the graphical interface for once in this course. I'll open the cc.txt file. And here we go. I have managed to successfully download all the credit card information